Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Bonanno and I am a voiceover artist, and I would like to take a moment to share with you how I like to edit my audio files. This is a tutorial that will actually help a lot of voiceover artists who maybe are using Adobe Audition CC. Now, if you aren't using Adobe Audition CC but you'd like to follow along, I encourage you to download the free trial of Adobe Audition and practice along with this tutorial. If you are not up for spending the money on a subscription with Adobe, then I might suggest using something free like Audacity. Now, I won't be covering Audacity in this. This is strictly for Adobe Audition CC, but Audacity is another option for you if you would like. For this one, though, I would like to share with you a lot of the tips and tricks on how I go about editing the recording that I actually have. And once you actually get used to it and get good at it, you will actually be able to get through a lot of this really, really fast with some really high quality stuff. Speaking of quality, this is the type of quality that I use for ACX standards. If you're doing audiobooks, this is a great way to make sure that your audio files meet the standards and passed all the tests the ACX has for your audio files. I also like to point out that the equipment that I am using is a Shure SM7B microphone tied to a cloudlifter and a Focusrite 2i2 third generation. So the actual noise and the recording quality that I have here is based off of that inside of an actual recording booth. If you don't have all of that, some of the settings that I have here may not necessarily apply to what you are going to need. You might have to make some other adjustments that will best fit the type of sound that you have recorded. The more sound that you can clean up during the recording phase without having to go back and edit it, the better. So take a look at like what kind of environment you're recording in. If there's some sort of background noise, hit record, leave the room for a minute, come back, play back what you've got, and see if you hear any weird noises like running water or an AC unit or footsteps from somebody upstairs or something like that. You want to pay attention to that kind of stuff because that will change how you edit your audio. But assuming that we are in a controlled environment with a controlled sound setup, then the settings that I have here will be most optimized for something maybe that you're looking into. It also depends upon the sound of your voice. I'm not saying your voice is bad. I'm saying that different voices may need other kinds of adjustments. This is for a male, middle-aged, deep voice. In my recordings, this is really good for that. But if you're a woman, you might need to make other adjustments. Now, getting into this, the tools that I use include some of the effects to clean things up, but I also like to use the spectral analysis. Now, I strongly suggest you get used to reading a spectral analysis view, and that would be this thing right here where it has all these different colors. It almost looks like a heat map. This is going to be very helpful as you start actually looking at the audio. You could do it by looking at the waveform, but I strongly suggest you get used to using the spectral analysis along with the waveform. To access that, there's a little button up here. Right now it's blue, but if you click on this button, it will allow you to toggle the spectral analysis on and off. You can also just take your little bar here and you can drag it up and down to adjust and bring that spectral analysis into view. So to prep before I actually start recording, I make sure that when I do record, I record a little bit of silence. You can do it before, you can do it after, you can do before and after, but you will essentially going to need to have it at the beginning. If you forget and then do it at the end, that's okay. You can copy and paste it into the front. And the reason I put that in there is because as the program does some of its adjustments, I like to have that empty space in the front to help it kind of measure some of the floor noise and all that kind of stuff. So I encourage you to make sure you have a little bit of silence at the beginning. It only has to be a couple seconds, 3 to 5 seconds tops. And I'll show you how I use that silence for a couple different things. Before I do that, the first three things that I will use are the Parametric Equalizer, the Adaptive Noise Reduction, and a Denoiser. The first thing I like to do is that Parametric Equalizer, and I do this first for, I do these in a certain order because I've played around with it, and I get the best quality by doing it in this particular order, because once you make an adjustment, you use another effect, it reacts to the first adjustment you made. So having it in a certain order might make a difference in your end quality after you've tried to clean everything up. So I start with the Parametric Equalizer, and that is located in Effects, Filter and EQ, Parametric Equalizer. And when I pull this up, it's already set to my settings that I prefer. But what I've done, and the reason I use this is because it helps with that noise floor in cleaning up the really subtle low-end decibels. Now, ACX requires you to be at -60 decibels, I believe. And so the first thing I like to do is I like to clean up this area first to so I don't have to worry about that later. And plus then I can actually use that as creating some really dead negative silent space that will be very useful later on. You're going to want to adjust your HP, which is your high pass, and you're going to want to adjust it so that it will eliminate that slight static hissing noise floor that you might be getting. And you want to bump it up just enough to where it gets rid of most, if not all of it, and doesn't distort your voice. Once it starts creating an echo or distortion to your voice, you know you've gone too far, so you want to back it off a little bit. Play around with the settings a little bit, and you should be okay. Make that adjustment first. Hit apply, and then you can move on to the adaptive noise reduction. Now there's a couple options you can take on this. The first one would be under effects, noise reduction, and you're going to want to manually capture some noise print. To do that, you're going to select some of your silence, go back up to effects, noise reduction, capture noise print. Now it's going to capture this section, and it's going to listen at the background noise that you have selected in that silence. Since it's silence, there's not much there, but it's, even though it's subtle, that's the noise that you're going to want to clean up. Click out of that, and then you're going to take that noise print, you're going to go to Effects, Noise Reduction, and Noise Reduction Process. And you can see this is all the sound that it's going to try to eliminate. And if you have pretty clean controlled audio already, then there's not going to be much distortion. You're not going to have a lot of peaks and valleys. It's going to be pretty clean. But what it's going to do is going to take that, and it's going to go through the rest of the audio, look for this noise print, and it's going to try to the best of its ability to clean up all of this noise right here. You'd click apply, and it will get through all of that. The other option that you can take is instead of doing those two steps, I like to also go to noise reduction, and instead I'm going to go to adaptive noise reduction. Now I like this because I can actually fine tune the gauges a little bit, and I will usually play around mostly with the noisiness and the reduce noise by. Now if you want to give it a little bit of a nudge, fine tune noise floor will also be good for you to adjust. Play around with these settings a little bit based off of the background noise you have, and once you're satisfied with it without hearing distortion, it's okay if you still get a little distortion, that's okay, but you're going to want to try to remove as much as you can in this process. But once you're happy with it, click apply, click close, and then move on to the third one, which is effects, noise reduction, denoise. Now with this guy, you pretty much want to leave your processing focus as is, where it's at default. I usually leave it at the center one, but can definitely play around with that. Most cases, you're just going to leave it as is. And the amount you're going to want to incrementally adjust and start dropping a little bit until you get to a point where it actually will clean up a lot of like the mouth noises, the clicks, the light thuds or anything like that. But do it to the point where it doesn't distort any of your voice or anything like that. If it's starting to distort your voice or create a tunnel effect or anything like that, you've gone too far. Back it off a little bit. And once you're happy with that, click apply and you can move on. Now, the tip I'd like to share with you at this point is you can save a lot of time by creating a favorites using those 3 steps. To create favorites, you first want to open up your favorites menu, and if it's not showing, you would want to go to Window, Favorites, and it will open up your favorites menu. And how this works is it's basically going to record the steps that you take through all the different effects. When you're doing that, you want to start at the beginning, and I suggest you already have it planned out, maybe write out what your steps are, and then go step by step in doing the process. So for this example, we're going to hit record, and we're going to start off with effects, filter and EQ, parametric equalizer, apply, effects, noise reduction, adaptive noise reduction, apply, and effects, noise reduction, denoise, apply. And once it's gone through all those steps, then I'm just going to hit the stop button. And that gives you the option to actually create a name for it. You name it however you want, and you click OK. And then it's actually going to add that new favorites to your list of favorites here. You can take it a step further and right-click, go to Edit Keyboard Shortcuts. In the bottom left corner, you're going to see different options, and you can go down, look for Favorites, click on the arrow to drop down, and find the favorite that you just created. If you click on the empty space where it says Shortcut, it'll pop up a little box and select like an F key or something like that. For example, maybe I want to do F4. So now I've assigned that to F4, and you hit OK, and it will actually save that shortcut. I've got F1, 2, and 3 are ones that I use on the regular. And once I've done with my audio recording, it's as easy as me just hitting that F3 key, and it does those 3 steps for me, and bam, it's only a matter of seconds, and I've already cleaned up my audio really quick. So once we've recorded, I can easily then just hit my F3 key, and you can see it goes through the whole process rather quickly. Now, before I did this, this is what the audio sounded like. Jeff Bonanno. When you step inside a car, what happens? Does it just take you from place to place? What if it was something more? Now you can hear the mouth clicks, you can hear the breaths, and these are things that I want to get rid of as well. But before I do that, I'm trying to clean up just the background noise and just create a really nice sounding results with my record. So I'm going to hit F3. It's going to go through that process. And now let's take a listen to it. Jeff Bonanno. When you step inside a car, what happens? Does it just take you from place to place? What if it was something more? Now you can hear that the silence is amazing. It's very well cleaned up, and I'm very happy with that. But what I'm not happy with is I still have some breaths in here, and I have some mouth noises in here that I'm going to want to clean up. Before I do that, there's a couple other things that I want to do with prepping my audio so that it meets ACX standards. The first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to adjust my RMS. Then I'm going to want to adjust my peak amplitude. So to make those adjustments with the audio, I am actually going to do, I'm going to enter the menu called Match Loudness. Now, Match Loudness can be found under Windows, Match Loudness, or Alt-5, if you will. And that's going to open up this menu. And what you're going to do is you're going to drop in your files. So I've recorded this audio file, and now I'm just going to drop it in to this list. And the cool thing is, if you have multiple files, let's say you've recorded several chapters, you can do this all at once, and you can drop them all into this list, and it will do it for all of them. So the first feature I'm going to use once I have it in here is I'm going to click to match to, and I'm going to go to Total RMS. With Total RMS selected, I'm going to want to make sure that my target loudness is -17 decibels. I'm going to use my limiting, and I'm going to have it at 12 milliseconds for look ahead time and release time at 200 milliseconds. Once I have those settings, I'm going to hit run, and it's going to go through it, and it's going to do a couple things. First thing you'll notice is actually giving me some measurements, so I know exactly what my total RMS is. And this kind of gives you a really good understanding of like where you're at for your ACX standards, but it's still not within their standards that they need. And the reason is because my peaks are really, really high. I'm going to need to adjust and normalize my audio a little bit. So in order to do that, I'm going to then go to peak amplitude. And I'm going to set my peak amplitude at -4.5. Now you could do -3.5, -3. I wouldn't go any higher than -3. If I set it at -4.5, it still meets within ACX standards, and it gives the editor or whoever the client's going to be, it gives them a lot of wiggle room to still make adjustments, but it's still going to be loud for them. And it's not going to peak. It's going to sound really clean and loud for them, so they can adjust the volumes and they can reduce the volume as they will. So once I've set my peak volume, I'm going to hit run, and it's going to go through, and it's basically going to normalize and bring down my peaks to at least -4.5 or lower. So now that I've got that, I'll notice that take note that my total RMS and my peaks are actually within, my as well as my loudness, they're within ACX guidelines, and it is actually set up really nice for me so that I don't have to worry about it, and it passes their tests every single time. So once I've got that adjusted, let's take a look and listen into what we have got here.
Jeff Bonanno.
Oh, nice, loud, and clean.
When you step inside a car, what happens? Does it just take you from place to place? What if it was something more?
Now you can actually hear that mouth noise a little bit better now that I've amplified it. And that's just normal mouth noise that my other features weren't able to get rid of, that I do want to get rid of because they're bugging me and I don't want them there. But I also want to get rid of that, the breaths in here. So this is where that extra silence really comes in handy. And what I like to do is I will actually take note of the natural pauses in between sentences. Now notice I've got one here, I've got one here, and not counting the breath that I have, my negative space right here is a very natural pause. So I'm noticing that that's about what my pause space amount is. So I'm going to actually collect about that much of my silence here and copy that. And all I have to now do is I can just go to right after the breath, and I can cover this whole area, and I can paste in that silence. And Adobe Audition is really, really powerful in the fact that it can actually, it does a very subtle blend, so that it will blend the area that you copied in with the rest of it, and it will create a really smooth transition. Let's listen right here.
What if it was something more? At company,
you notice how there's no more breath, and it's as if it was naturally left as just a pause with no breath, which is exactly what I want. Now you can also do that with your mouth clicks. You can just paste that and get rid of your mouth clicks that way.
What if it...
No mouth clicks. But what if I don't want to use that for my mouth clicks? Another tool that I love to use, and I use it on the regular, is the brush tool. Now, the brush tool is something newer that is with Adobe Audition CC. And it requires you to have your spectral analysis up to be able to do this. But once you actually find like areas, you will start learning what they actually look like on the spectral analysis. I can actually identify what looks like mouth clicks and what look like as breaths. And so it's easy for me to find them using the spectral analysis. But with the brush tool, you hit B on your keyboard and it'll open up this circle. And just like Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, you can actually just paint over these mouth clicks and see how it just gets rid of it. There are some times where like it's a little bit more stubborn, so you have to really kind of keep rubbing it out and stuff. But it is very powerful and it does a wonderful job at actually cleaning up those mouth clicks.
Place? What if it was place? What if it was place?
And you don't, it's as if like I just pasted the silence there. And this is amazing to use throughout. So I actually alternate. I will actually copy that silence, and I will paste wherever I need to paste, and then I will also use the brush tool. And it's using the combination, I can get through it pretty much in one run, and it saves me a lot of time. Now, what about if you have mouth noise in the actual voice area where you're speaking and stuff? Let's listen to right here.
We're forging a new future for the car. We're forging a new future for.
Now you can hear that mouth noise, especially like right here in this area. And what I'm looking for is I'm actually looking for these lines, and this represents actually the mouth noise. And the brush tool is so powerful that I can actually just paint over those lines. And now let's give it a listen.
Forging a new future.
We got a little bit more here. Let's see how that sounds.
Forging a new.
It's gone. It's gone, and it hasn't affected my voice at all. It's that powerful. It's really great. But it is so powerful that if you're not careful and you start scribbling everything, it actually will create.
We're forging a new future for the car.
A lot of distortion, and you don't want that. So be mindful on
Forging a new future for the car.
On where and how you use it. If you use it too much, it will affect your voice. But if you use it sparingly and in areas that you actually want to attack, it does a really good job cleaning up. Be cautious though. Sometimes you have things, words that actually need that. Like for instance here,
At company.
you see it has that line, but that line is actually a hard C in me speaking. So I don't want to get rid of that hard C. I want to keep that hard C. So be careful where you do use that tool, because you might get rid of sounds that you don't want to get rid of. Anyway, so those are the tips and tricks that I have for being able to edit audio. And I really do hope that this is something that actually will help you a lot if you are struggling with Adobe Audition while trying to do your voiceover auditions and stuff like that. If you have any questions or you'd like to learn more that maybe I can help out with, I encourage you to email me at jbonanno@jeffbonanno.com, or you can also visit my website at jeffbonanno.com. I encourage you to sign up to my newsletter, where each month I issue out free tips and tricks. And also give me some feedback. What do you think of this little tutorial I have? I hope it really helps. Let me know that it does. And if there's anything else that I can help out with, I'd be happy to help. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. And I wish you nothing but the best in all your auditions and your audio recordings. Happy recording.